Hey, what's up? Hello. If you're new here, my name is Kayla and you are watching Kayla's Bookish Vibes. Today's video is going to be all about me reaching my reading goal for 2024. At the top of the year, I set my reading goal on Goodreads to read 50 books by the end of 2024. Last year, I think I read over 100 books. I think I read like 104. So that I knew when I set 50 books, it was going to be pretty easy for me to reach the goal. I thought I would have reached it by the 6-month mark. Here we are in the 7th month and I still haven't reached 50 books, which is fine because I've been doing a lot of other things such as filming YouTube videos and editing YouTube videos, which I've really been enjoying, but we still really need to hit our reading goal. For me, it's like once I hit the 50 book mark, I can just stop thinking about the reading goal and everything that I read afterwards is just a bonus or a plus. So I really want to go ahead and reach it so I can stop thinking about it. Right now we're sitting at 42 books read. That means we need to read 8 more books. My goal is to read 8 books in this video. How am I going to do that, you say, when I typically read 8 books in an entire month? I shopped my shelves and picked up, meaning I just pulled off of my shelves. These are all books that I already owned. I went through and picked the shortest books that I have on my shelf. All of the books that I saw that were like really thin, I just pulled them out. All of these books are well under 300 pages. So I figured in today's video, just going to be a vlog over a couple of days. We're reading these books.
Some days maybe I'll read 2 books in one day. Some days I'll only read 1.
But the goal is to reach our reading goal by the end of the video. I'm also going to time this, like whenever I'm physically actively reading, I'm going to start my timer to see how long it takes us to reach our reading goal. Hopefully it takes us under 24 hours. We'll see, because I'll be doing this while also living my regular schmegular life. Now, I'm going to briefly share with you all the books that are here. So the first book is For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. I'm excited to read this because first of all, it's a poem. I have read a book by Jason Reynolds earlier this year and I think it was called The Long Way Down. It's back here on my shelf somewhere. I really enjoyed that book. That book was a story written in poem form. It's young adult and I highly recommend that one. If you haven't checked it out, please do. I think I gave it 5 stars. So I'm really excited to get into some more of his books. I think we're actually going to read this one tonight. Pages are like, there's not a lot of words on the pages. So this is going to take us no time at all. Next, I have Riot Baby. Funny thing is, I picked this book up because it was mentioned in another book that I enjoy reading. The Neighbor Favorite by Christina Forrest. Lily in that book mentions this book. And so I decided to pick it up. I have no clue what it's about, like whatsoever. I just know that it was one of Lily's favorite books. Then we have The Deep by Rivers Solomon. I'm excited to read this. This has been on my TBR for quite a while, so it's going to feel so good to knock it off of my TBR. The Ones Who Don't Say They Love You. Now, I was actually looking for the other book by this same author, Maurice Ruffin, We Cast a Shadow. I know I own that book on my shelf. I just can't find it for some reason. Wait, is this a book of short stories? Yes, this is a book of short stories. So interesting. I don't know if we'll get to this one. I'm trying to avoid reading short stories. I want to read a book in its entirety. In short stories, I tend to put the book down after I've completed the short story and I'll pick it up and revisit it later. I don't know if I'll be reading this one. I didn't realize it was short stories. Then we have The Scourge Between Stars by Ness Brown. This is a sci-fi novel or novella because I think it's only 159 pages, so it's a novella. You guys know I've been trying to figure out, is sci-fi my thing? Next we have The Ballad of Black Time by Victor Lavalle. I'm probably going to read this book second because I have been dying to get back into Victor Lavalle's writing. I read Lone Women last year and I really enjoyed it, and I also read a novella by him last year too. I forget the name of it. I'll put it on the screen, but I just really enjoyed his style of writing. It's quite odd but very enjoyable for me, so I'm really excited to get into this to see what it's all about. Then we have Pet by Kweke Emezi. I believe this one is YA and I've been wanting to read it for a while. I was gonna save it for October, but I just couldn't help grabbing it up for this video because there's not a lot of pages in this book. Then we have Country Place by Ann Petrie. I've been wanting to get into this author. I've actually collected all of her books, and one of my favorite booktubers just read The Street by Ann Petrie and she really enjoyed it. I've been wanting to get into this author's work, and then of course after hearing her sing the high praises of the other book, I was like, let's go ahead and start our Ann Petrie journey by reading Country Place. Then we have A Gathering of Old Men. This was written by Ernest Gaines. This just seems like a book that I'm going to love. It seems like a very Kayla-coded book and I'm excited to read it. The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead. Now this book, I know I picked it up even before The Reformatory by Tanana Ridu, but after reading The Reformatory, I realized, yeah, this is something that I'm going to have to read because both books were inspired by the Dojo School for Boys. But the goal is to get to at least 8 of these books in this video. We're going to go ahead and start with our first one by Jason Reynolds because this is going to be rather easy to get through. And then I'll let you guys know my thoughts and my star rating on this one. Let's get started. I'm taking a pause here, I guess, to update you guys already because this is going to go by so quickly. 35 pages in, and I'm going to need to buy more of these. I know people, this is hitting me, like right where it needs to hit me. And I know so many people who could benefit, friends who are in very similar positions or in very similar stages of life that I'm in who need this reminder, who need to hear that they're not the only ones in this odd space. Let me keep reading. I'm sorry. Give me a second. All right, we're back. Y'all, Jason, you do not have to do this. This book is essentially for everyone. All the dreamers, people who have dreams, whether you're an artist or an athlete, or your dream is to just be a stay-at-home mom. It literally is for everyone. But it's just an encouraging letter. That's what he calls it in here. It's a letter to encourage you to jump and to continue to dream, that even if you're 50 years old, there's still time to jump and that you can still dream. Highly recommend this one. We're off to a really good start. 5 stars. No need to think about it. 5 stars. This literally just made me cry. I loved it. And now I'm going to go make my husband read it to me as I fall asleep because he needs to read this book too. And I would love to read this with him. So we're going to read it together. He's going to read it to me as I fall asleep. You need to pick this book up. You need to pick up a few books, a few copies of this because you're going to be passing these out. And now I want to order one for my mom and I want to order one for my sister. I did not expect that. I did not expect that. When I read The Long Way Down, I really enjoyed his writing and I loved that poem. That was like a story, you know, like you're attaching it to a fictional character. In this book, when you're reading it, you're attaching everything that he's saying to you and you're taking it personally, or at least I am. Maybe you won't read it that way, right? We all have different experiences when we're reading, but I did not expect this book to do what it just did. Do what it just did to me. 5 stars. 5 stars. Pick it up, read it. Hi guys, hopefully it's not too dark in here. It's just so hot. In this time of day, the sun is coming right into this room. There's a really big window, and so this room gets really hot. So if you can hear my fan, but we need to go ahead and pick our next book to read because we still have reading goals. We finished For Everyone by Jason Reynolds. I think I just got a little too emotional and didn't make my thoughts very concise. I really enjoyed this book, if you couldn't tell. I think I enjoyed it so much because it was so simple. There's nothing like profound about it, but I also think that it hits home because it's able to say something so big in such a simple way. Like, it's not overly complicated. There's not a lot of fluff. It's not even necessarily giving you things that you don't actually already know. But I think just as humans, sometimes it's really helpful to have a reminder, and this book does a really good job at reminding us, number one, that we're not alone in feeling the things that we feel. Sometimes life can make you feel like you're the only one going through this thing, and you're not. Like, you're truly not. And I think this book does a really good job at reminding you of that, but also inspiring you to just keep going, keep pushing, I really enjoyed this book and the simplicity of it. We need to move on to the Ballad of Black Tom. I'm gonna try and start and finish this today. But while I have you here, I figured we could open our Book of the Month box. The Book of the Month box is a little dented. It's never been dented like this before, but the book itself is not damaged. I'm not really sure why they did my book like this. Dang, this book is thick. I didn't know it was this thick. I ended up picking The God of the Woods by Liz Moore. I've never read anything by this author, but the synopsis sounded really good, and I've been seeing a lot of reviews going around of people reading this book and they're enjoying it. So I'm excited. Why is this so big? Like, the pages I feel like are big. The book itself is just big, which, you know, Book of the Month books are typically larger, but I don't know. There's something about this book that seems really big, and it's also very thick for it to be like a thriller. Y'all, does this book hit 500 pages? Child. This book is 476 pages. I don't know when we're gonna get to this. I'm gonna try and get the audio, reserve the audio. I really like the cover and the synopsis. So it says, early morning, August 1975, a camp counselor discovers an empty bunk. Its occupant, Barbara Van Laar, has gone missing. Barbara isn't just any 13-year-old. She's the daughter of the family that owns the summer camp and employs most of the region's residents. And this isn't the first time a Van Laar child has disappeared. Barbara's older brother similarly vanished 14 years ago, never to be found. Sounds like it's a thriller that I would be interested in. But we also got a little tote bag from Book of the Month. You're a BFF. Go on, let it go to your head. Welcome to your new life as one of our besties. Long may you reign, BFF. So I reached BFF status with Book of the Month. I guess, you know, like depending on how many times you order books using the subscription service, you get like a status. And because I got bestie status or best friend status, I got a little tote, which is useful. And it just says Book of the Month in their iconic blue color. We need to go ahead and start reading The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Lavalle. Again, I've read from this author before, and I really enjoy his writing style. I don't really know what this one is about, and I'm tempted not to even read the synopsis of this because it's so short. It's like, why ruin anything? Just read the book, fall into it, figure out what's going on. And I think that's what I'm going to do. So let's go ahead and get started on reading The Ballad of Black Tom. So, not very far in, but I mean, this book is only so long, so I'm going to give you a brief synopsis of what I know so far. Tom, aka Tommy, aka Black Tom, is a swindler. Okay, he's 20 years old, still very young, has lost his mother, is taking care of his father. He's paying the bills and bringing home food for his dad, who is sick and old. Well, one day, Tommy, I guess, is on a job. He walks around with this guitar case, even though he can't play the guitar and he can't sing worth a damn. Inside the guitar case is a book that he brings to an old lady out in Queens. And you can tell immediately that there was something sinister with that book because as soon as he gave it to her, like, there was like a puff of smoke. So there is magic in this book. He doesn't know what's inside the book. He didn't read the book. He just gave it to her. That was the mission, and he leaves. He gets paid for his work, and then he leaves. That was his first time really out of Harlem. He's realizing there's like a whole world outside of Harlem. So now he's going to all of the other boroughs, still up to his hustling ways. He's still trying to hustle these people. But he's like, you know what? Harlem is overcrowded. There's already a lot of hustlers there. I'm not getting a lot of work. Also, this is taking place in the 1920s. It's 1924, so keep that in mind. Or a guy runs into him as he's singing, and the guy tells him, come back to my home in 3 days. I want you to play your guitar and sing at my home. In 3 days time, I'll pay you $500. We as the reader don't know what Tommy is dabbling in. I don't even think Tommy fully understands what he's dabbling in, but I guess that's what we're going to uncover in this book. It's probably some sort of like dark magic I don't know if it's like magical realism or it's just magic. Again, I think I just really enjoy Victor Lavelle's writing style. This one is kind of, there are some like, you know, little funny bits in here that kind of make you chuckle. But I'm enjoying it, and I'm just gonna power through because literally there's no pages in this book. Like, this is not a long book, so I can't really give you an update until the end. So I'll let you guys know my final thoughts when I finish this book. We have finished The Ballad of Black Tom by Victor Lavelle, and I'm gonna give it 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed it. It was very weird, very odd for sure, but I think that's just his writing style. That's just his way of writing. The 3 books that I have read by this author have all been very weird and odd. As I'm reading the books, I'm just trying to figure out what I'm reading. Like, the whole time I'm reading his books, I'm trying to figure out, what am I reading? And I feel like I'm tracking, but I'm not completely sure if what I think is happening is actually happening. Just enjoy the confusion, which is weird to say because I don't typically like to be confused while I'm reading unless it's like a thriller. But I feel that way about his books, and I've been enjoying them so far. So in this one, I can't really give you more of the synopsis. I've already given you pretty much all I can of this book without giving too much more away. It is very short, but I will say what I loved about this book was our main character, Tom, Black Tom as he's called, and he was very morally gray. And I enjoy morally gray characters because we as humans are morally gray, and I always hate when authors make our characters too good, if that makes sense. If you, the reader, were given the same opportunities that Black Tom was given, you too would have made the same choices. Okay? That's all I'm gonna say. I don't want to spoil it. I also loved the commentary in this book. Although it takes place in the 1920s, some of the things that were being experienced by Black people, Black men specifically, are things that definitely still happen today. There's nothing new under the sun, and these things are still definitely going on in present day's time. Highly recommend if you're into like weird things. This would be a really good like fall read, I think. So enjoy that. I've already started our next book. Oh wait, we need to do some updates, okay? Because I'm pretty sure at the beginning of this video I said that I was going to time how long I was reading each book, how long it took me to read each book, and I failed at that because it's very unnatural to start a timer for me. So we're gonna nix that idea. We're gonna throw that out. One day we'll eventually do like how many books can I read in 24 hours. We'll do it on my channel one day. Today is just not the day. Also, I know that I said I was going to try and read all of these books in like one day. That's also something that's going to have to take more planning on my part, and it's just not something that I can do right now with everything that I've got going on. So it's kind of like I'm reading when I can read, and I'll update you guys once I have thoughts. Now this book, The Deep by Rivers Solomon, I am on chapter 3. I started reading this last night. It was such a vibe. I was reading, it was like in the dark. I had the lights off, and I had like my little shelf lights on, and I had like ocean sounds playing while I was reading this. Next level, really set the mood, set the vibes, and I was enjoying it. Right, just enough so that I can give you guys a synopsis because I've seen a few people review this book, but I can never really figure out what is this book about. So our main character's name is Yetu. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but I will put the spelling of it here on the screen. Her name is Yetu, and she is like the carrier of memories for her people. Her people are like the Wajinru people, I believe is what they're called. Again, I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but I will put the spelling of it on the screen. And they have the ability to forget. They don't hold on to things. They let a lot of things go. When it's a new day, it's a new day. They're no longer living in the past. However, because they are able to do this, there is one, which is Yetu, who has to be the historian for her people, which means she carries all of their memories. She's not just the carrier of their memories, but of like their ancestors' memories as well. And she feels everything very deeply. She's very sensitive to everything, from noise to sound to like physical sensations. Everything is, she's just very sensitive to everything around her. She is preparing to have like this ritual where although her people cannot remember anything, there is one time a year where they all come together, and the historian, which is Yetu, gives them their memories and reminds them of who they are like as a people and what they've been through. So she's preparing for this ritual to happen. While she is preparing though, they give her a gift, and the gift is a comb, which I thought was pretty funny because I'm assuming these are mer people, They're described, I guess, as merpeople. Something tells me, oh, these are not like Ariel. So don't think Hallie from The Little Mermaid. I don't think they look like that, but I'm assuming they are like merpeople. They are descended from two-legged humans. But she finds this comb, or she's gifted this comb, and she's able to see the memories of the person who owned the comb, you know, years prior. So that's how we know that they're descended from humans, because she talks about that when she sees that memory. That's pretty much all I've gotten so far from this book. Again, I'm only 2 chapters in, so I'm going to sit, read a little more, and once I feel like I have a better understanding or a clearer view of what this book is about, then I will come back and give you guys an update. Okay, calm down. My heart is palpitating. Use your words, babe. Use your words. I fear I have no words. I literally forced myself to put this book down. I'm on chapter 5. I got out of my bed to come in here and talk to you about this book because I'm sure my husband, even though he definitely just listened, I'm sure he was like, okay, babe. So I'm coming here to you, my people, who don't mind listening to me talk about books. I feel exposed. Like, filleted, laid open. I'm not a writer, okay? I'm not a writer, I'm just a reader. I'm gonna try and use my words though, to the best of my capabilities. I believe I've given you a brief synopsis so far of the story. It's so much more than a story and I don't have the language.
I'm finding it.
Okay.
It take you that long to find it? It does.
The Wajinru people, or these mer people, first of all, let's start there. I feel like this book was pitched to me or suggested to me. I remember I picked it up when The Little Mermaid came out with Hallie in it, Hallie's version. It was on TikTok and it was like,
if you want to read books about black mermaids, pick this book up.
I mean, yeah, but no. Like, this is not The Little Mermaid. It's just not that. The only connection is that there are mer people in here. The Wajinru, and I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, the Wajinru people are mer people, but they descend or come from, were birthed by pregnant women who were thrown overboard from slave ships while during the transatlantic slave trade. The women who were pregnant and tossed overboard, they gave birth in the water. And the beings that they gave birth to in the water are the Wajinru people of this book. As you can imagine, that is quite deep and heavy. A very heavy origin story. But they choose to forget. They choose not to remember. They choose to live in the here and the now. However, one must remember. And the person who must remember is the historian, our main character. And it is killing her. The remembering of it all is killing her. If I could be a writer, like if I could write, I would want to write like this. I would want to write like this. It's stunning. And I feel like even that word is not strong enough to describe how this is written. It's entrancing. Like, I am captivated by this book and literally had to peel myself away in order to come and give you an update. Whoa. I'm like, okay, now what else has River Solomon wrote? Like, what else do you have in your catalog? Let me know, babe. What else do you have? I don't have the words to explain what this book is doing for me and how well it's written. I don't have the words. And again, I'm only 50% through. But I had to come and give my thoughts. But from chapter 3 to chapter 5, it was made extremely clear what this book is about. I'm sure my thoughts are incoherent at this moment. And I'm sorry. I'll come back to you guys when I finish the book.
Can I help?
Hi, good morning. It's morning, it's Friday morning, and I am finished with The Deep. I finished it last night, probably around like 11:30. 5 stars. After I finished reading this book, I just stared at the wall. Like I literally just stared at the wall and reflected on what I read. And I know I sat there for like an hour just reflecting on everything that I read in this book. My husband woke up and he saw me just staring at the wall. I'm sure I looked so creepy. And he was like, are you okay? I'm like, I am. I'm just thinking about the book that I read. This book has so much symbolism and so many themes that's represented in it. It's like one of those books that you have to continue to think about after reading, and every time you really think and reflect on this book, you're probably going to pull something else out from it, and that's insane because it's so short. I think this is a testament to how good of a writer River Solomon is, because he's able to tell such an intriguing and interesting story, but also give us so much to chew on and so much to think about. I really enjoyed this book. The layers. There's so many layers to this book, and I'm finding it really hard to put into words. So I've already told you that the Mer people that we are reading about, where they descend from, where they come from. So they are birthed by pregnant women who were on slave ships, who couldn't make the journey for whatever reason. They were thrown overboard, and if they were still pregnant when they were thrown overboard, they gave birth to these mer people. This is considered a fantasy, by the way. If you haven't picked that up by now, I don't know what to tell you. It's considered a fantasy. But our main character, Yetu, is the historian for her people, and she holds on to all of their memories and all of their history. This is a story about how our history can be very heavy at times, but it is still needed for our identity. The Wajanru people didn't have their history because it was so heavy for them. So they chose instead to dump all of this history onto one person. And it was killing this one person because it is a history that is meant to be shared and a burden that is meant to be carried together as a people. I felt the need to say this because without context, you won't really know why this book really hit me the way that it did. It was just really good timing. Currently, my mother is in Washington, D.C., and she is on a trip with some of her church friends, and they are visiting a African American museum. And if you've ever visited an African American museum, you know it's like a time of reflection because you are visually seeing a lot of the things that make up our history as Black people in America. And so she's sending me all of these pictures, all of these videos, giving me her thoughts on everything that she's seeing. And as she's sending me things, I'm reading this book. The correlation was just uncanny. So she sent me a picture, for example, of a woman who was sold with her 2 daughters. And she also sent me the bill of sale for that. And in my mind, I'm just thinking I'm literally looking at a receipt for a purchase of a human. And obviously that is very hard to grasp and to hold on to, but just the correlation of it. She also sent me so many other things, so many other pictures. I'll insert a few of her pictures here just so that you can see them as well. But it's just the timing of everything. Her sending me all of this information and us having our own separate dialogue about what she's seeing, what she's looking at, and then me reading this book, having my own inner dialogue and inner thoughts about this book. It was just the timing and the marriage of those two things were perfect. Back to the video. And yet too, the person who was holding this burden for so long realizes that this history is not, although it can be very heavy and hard and sad at times, there's also a lot of joy in this history if you carry it with others. And that's just like one layer. You know, like I said, this is like an onion, you know, like Shrek. This is an onion. There are so many layers to this book. You have to like appreciate it for all of the layers. This is like also a story of Yetu finding herself in general. She finds love. They don't necessarily call it love, but you as the reader realize that's what it is. She finds love and identity on her search. While ridding herself of her history, she realizes that she can't rid herself of her history because without it, who is she? Something that really stuck out to me that I related to so much in this book. I enjoy historical fiction, and I know so many people cannot read historical fiction or do not enjoy historical fiction. Usually when I tell someone that that's my favorite genre, they're always like, I don't know how you can read historical fiction. It's so depressing, it's so heavy, it's so hard. And obviously there's so many books that are historical fiction that are not those things, right? You just have to search for them. But there are a lot of books that are those things. The writers and the authors of those hard historical fictions like Yellow Wife, The Water Dancer, these authors are like our historians, right? They're like our Yetus. And even though these are fictional books, like these aren't real things happening to real people, they're based off of things that have happened to people in the past. And those people happen to be a part of my history. So for me, it's like helping to carry that history. Reading it and bearing witness to it is helping my people carry that history, because it is a hard burden to bear. But if we don't bear it together, and if we just forget our history, then who are we as a people? It's kind of like the saying, you have to know where you come from to know where you're going. I wholeheartedly believe that. And this book just like, it did it for me. It did all of the things for me. Highly recommend. If you read this book, read it again, because this is definitely a book I plan to reread. I want to see if they offer it in hard copy. I want a special edition of that book. I loved it. I loved it. What more can I say besides I loved it? There are so many more themes, so many more things that could be said about this book. It's just something that I have to sit with. There is a song. It's called The Deep by Clipping. Listen to that song and it tells you a really good, it's kind of like this book in song version, I guess. The afterword was nice. Like the afterword in the book was really nice and just kind of talked about how the book came to be. And I love the analogy of comparing it to the game of telephone, because you just have to read it. I loved it. 5 out of 5. This was a really good reading vlog. I know I said that I was going to read at least 8 of those books, but this video has been long enough and I don't want it to be any longer. So we're going to end the vlog here. I want to say that it was a fail vlog because I didn't read all the books that I said I was going to read, but it wasn't a fail because I read this book 5 out of 5 stars. I also read, let me grab it. We also read For Everyone by Jason Reynolds, which was a 5 out of 5 stars, and this also brought me to tears. The Deep didn't bring me to tears, but it just had me reflecting, and will have me reflecting probably for the rest of the weekend. But For Everyone by Jason Reynolds, 5 out of 5 stars, brought me to tears. Victor Lavalle, The Ballad of Black Tom. This was just a really good, entertaining read. 4 out of 5 stars, enjoyed, and I think I found a new favorite author in Victor Lavalle. So that's a win. We read 3 books. We're closer to our reading goal. We haven't reached 50 yet, but I'm going to chip away at the rest of these books and we'll get there eventually. Highly recommend you check these books out. They're also very short, so if you're needing to read like a book in one day, or if you're going to be in the airport for a while, or if you just want like a short read to read for the weekend, those books are perfect to read for sure. Thank you so much if you made it to the end of today's video. I really appreciate you sticking around to the very end. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you have read any of these books, feel free to leave comments down below, letting me know what you thought about them, what your star rating was, even if they weren't what I rated them. No judgment, we can still be friends. And also no spoilers, please. So thank you so much for watching, and I will see you guys in my next video.